Now, I wouldn't say that people at Dundee are particularly spoiled for choice when it comes to public transport options. Yeah, we've got a light rail service that stretches from the beaches to the city. There's a metro line that's alright in places, but it's still pretty limited. And then our buses. Look, it's a pretty extensive network, but I wouldn't be relying on buses to get you there on time. The ferry service has only just been added, there's rumours of an airport, and then if you live out of Paterson, you got one slow train getting you to the city every couple of hours. So no wonder when we look at the city, we're looking at traffic. There's traffic in a lot of areas, and that's because the only option for a lot of these people is driving. Today, we are finally getting to the train passenger service of Dundee, giving these poor souls who live in the public transport dead zone, giving them some options. And it's going to be a mammoth episode. We do quite a lot in this build. We are leaving the city, starting at Central Station, taking a right-hand turn, and getting to a part of Dundee that was built by Dirty H. This area is called Namutu, and I wanted to start our episode off by building the town of Namutu and then giving it a station connecting it up to the rest of the city. Now, on top of this episode being extra long, it is also structured a little bit differently. I recorded all of this footage over the course of a week, all in live plays. It was last week, and throughout the week I got progressively much sicker. I sound a lot sicker than I really was. I felt pretty fine as I was recording it, but my voice was definitely getting pretty shaky towards the end. So I'm gonna cut the last 5 or so hours of recording from the episode, and I'll just do a commentary over the top of it. So I'll future me, current me, I guess, editing version of me will be back towards the end of the video. So if I sound a little bit different in this live play, that's why. And then all this footage of me building Namutu, for some reason the audio didn't work, so I lost all that footage as well. So we're gonna dive into shaky voice, $2.20. live play, and then I'll see you guys back in a little bit. Alright, where were we? 2 hours of footage down the toilet. So annoying. Anyway, I'll show you what I've been up to. It's been mostly working on the little town of Namutu. I didn't put a huge amount of detail into it. I've done more detail on the train line instead. But the little town is so super cute. I really love this place. It is just a slither. It's really just a couple of roads. And it's following this road. This is the old road of Dundee. It goes all the way into town, and it also stretches towards what is going to be another city at a much later point in the series. But this is definitely a historical town. What is this? High-speed train? I didn't remember enabling that. Alright, so I guess that's why... What? Well, I want to disable that. I'm sure something's going on. Maybe I need to use another mod, but oh my god. I'm starting to remember seeing a mod that's been on the Steam Workshop front page for a little while that's, I believe, this. I think that's going to fix that. So let's just leave the little town of Namutu because that's not good. So we're going to leave. We're going to follow this train line because this little train line, I've added in just little bits of detail. So following along, let's remove some trees on the way. And then for little areas like this, I'm just going to connect it up using Surface Painter and following along. And you can see where the road goes through a tree. But you can also see where the dirt road would connect up to this little guy over here. And we obviously are not connecting because otherwise that would cause some problems with our crossing. So we're just going to leave it like that. And then again, following along our train line, we have a retaining wall, which I put in. We've got some fences, which I'll add a little bit more detail to. And then I spent a bit of time working on this station, which again, people are waiting at because I need to download that mod. Let's just turn that off. Beautiful. And I've also turned off Namutu's station. Far out, that was a bit of a nightmare. So this is where we're up to. We're working on this station down here, and what I need to do before we start giving these guys places to park is I need to give these guys ways to walk onto this track, because at the moment they're just, they're walking through the fence, they're going across the tracks. That's a little bit dangerous. So I think here they are. So these stations do also have these overhead crossings, which are absolutely perfect. It's just a matter of figuring out whereabouts we would like these. So we can change where the road is a bit more, because I think otherwise the pathway is going to be on the road. And I need to give a bit of clearance for the building too. This might be the only area we can place it. That's not too bad. It just means that it does throw a little spanner in the works. We can maybe just drag out a road and have a little test run. Okay, so it's gone black. And that's better. So let's drop him into the ground so that, well, you know what? That's going to be pretty cool because this is raised up a bit. So I kind of like that. It gives it this multi-level kind of thing going on. Uh-oh. What's he doing there? No, I just turned you off. All right. That better be the last one. Okay? That better be the last one. I guess these guys can test whether or not this pathway is in fact working. I can't tell whether I'm just easy to impress or whether this is actually super cool, but when these things do work out and people do cross these pathways, I feel like it's magic. So let's just see if it truly happens. Well, they are crossing. I wouldn't call it magic, but they are crossing. It's fine. It's totally fine. Although, I've just got a bit of an idea. Potentially, I guess there are nodes in here. If I was to grab... Oh, there's a node. Okay, there's not really. Okay, so it's not magic. I was hoping I could potentially grab some node that... Oh, there is. Okay, I've just held down shift and I've selected something. Let's see if that's a node. Well, actually, it's not shift. I held down alt. If I raise that up, let's just see what happens. Raising, raising, raising. Raising. That's working. That's actually making people go up on there. That is fantastic. Let's see. Is that pretty much... That's pretty much level. Let's see. Okay, that's pretty much where we want it. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to press alt and hopefully there's one there. There is. And let's just deselect that one. And maybe I can also just press alt and shift. And can I just... Yeah, okay. So hopefully that's made them go beautifully along there. Wonderful. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, keeping it super duper simple. For some reason, the occasional person is still just wandering across there, floating across the tracks. People are using this walkway, I swear. Look, there she is. She's using it. So it's just a matter of figuring out what we're going to place in this little courtyardy thing here. Maybe some benches, maybe a fountain, maybe some planters. I'll just lower that into the ground. Let's try some planters. And then if anything doesn't look right, we just cover it up with some trees. Of course, that's what we do here. We just cover up any imperfections with some trees, and that'll do. Okay, cool. I think that's not even. And that's better. Let's even make it a little bit more center now that we're moving things with Move It. That's pretty nice. Okay, that's pretty much all I'm going to do in terms of the front area. We've got a couple of little spaces that obviously still need a bit of work, but we're just mostly focusing on the train stations. Something that I do want to do though is this back area here. I feel like it is a pretty narrow space for what it is. You know, these stations usually have a bit of stuff going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a dirt path, a dirt road, and we'll take the fence away. We'll use the fence, we'll repurpose it, but we'll just drag it away for now. And I'm going to get this dirt road and have it go nice and close. Somewhere like that. And you can connect up to this road. And it's clipping into my train line a bit, so we can just use Move It just to smidge him away. I don't really know what its purpose is just yet. I think it's just more of an access road. I think that we would need some sort of access roads to the station for people who are working in terms of maintenance and, you know, providing any sort of resources that are needed. Sort of a bit more backstage work. What am I talking about? I do quite like those wooden fences nearby, but I might switch it up. I might go from wooden to maybe we start getting into some of these barbed wire ones as we come a bit further away from the station. Still undecided what's going to be around this part because we have a bit of space between the train line and the road, but we're still figuring out what the road's going to look like. I haven't really decided anything in terms of the highway. But when you're unsure what to do, just fill the space with some little bushes. That's sort of my go-to. And I don't really know how long this road's going to go for. Maybe that's as far as it goes. Maybe we just cross the track and connect up to that, give it another access point, and then just grab these nodes and align it back up to the train line. And rather than creating a crossing right here, because I think that would be a little bit impractical, I'm actually just nudging up the nodes using Alt and Page Up, and just so you can see it a little bit. You know, we don't want a full-on crossing. We're not going to see a huge amount of vehicles, and it's all going to be service vehicles anyway, so they don't really need a crossing there. So just doing that is totally fine. I'm just going to line these nodes up, and then we'll move on to the next one. You know what? I know exactly what we place in that little stretch. This is the perfect stretch for some power lines. Ugly power lines, but super necessary for our city. In fact, we desperately need, not desperately, but desperately in terms of realism, need power lines heading towards this area because we don't really have anything besides just power lines that are connected with the power grid just on the side of the roads. That's probably not really going to cut it in a realistic setting. So by dragging this out, it kind of makes a bit of sense to have something like this heading towards some sort of transmitter, which I am actually dragging this one towards a transmitter that's close to the city. I think you know the one I'm talking about if you remember from a few episodes ago. And when I say a few, I mean probably last year. Yeah, so we've actually got this whole other line that's right here already. I mean, this line goes all the way out towards the countryside, and this one also goes towards the countryside. So I think this all kind of fits in. Now, you might be wondering what I'm doing. I am dragging just a bit more space between these actual, I mean, what are they called? Pylons? Towers? These things. I'm dragging a little bit more extra space between them just because I think that otherwise they have probably too little a space and it looks a bit unusual. But this is a bit tricky because I'm trying to, I want them all to share the same one over here. But, okay, this is going to be annoying. Alright, I suppose that'll do. I don't really like the space in between all of them, but maybe we can just drag that guy a bit further away like that. And this guy can be a little bit more like that. And that's a pretty good space between these. And now this whole area, you know, this whole area is under construction. We've still got a massive interchange to place here, and this needs to be fixed. This is like one of the first things I built within the city, so we desperately needs to fix that up. But this is a must-do fix up. And then just for a bit of added realism, you got to get rid of the trees underneath just to leave a nice clear path. I might even at some point, I'm not going to do it today because, I mean, I'm going to say this a couple of times, but this is a train station episode, not a power line episode. But a service road would actually look quite cool. But what I'm going to do instead is, look, I've already got them selected. I'm going to do short bushes like that. And then if you've got the ground resources mod, you can just slightly make the ground a little bit rougher. And look at that, we've actually ended up at our next train station. But I don't think I'm going to build here just yet, because this is getting towards the city. I've got some plans for that one. I'm still in the mood for some country town train stations. So we have a couple more we could potentially put out here. I mean, we've got to put some out here. All these poor souls, they've got no public transport. So let's start with over here. Now, I reckon probably somewhere along this road would probably make the most amount of sense. I might just fix that up a bit more. We'll probably change that into, you know what, that can actually stay as a dirt road. Lots of people choosing to walk along it for some reason. I'm not really sure why. That's how bad the public transport is out this way. People are resorting to walking on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. I reckon we use the same station as before, but first we need a couple of extra roads. And I might build just the smallest of little commercial strip up here. Nothing too crazy. I feel like whatever we build has to be kind of on the small side, just because I want this to definitely feel like it's further out of the city and not to be extra built up, you know? Don't want to start building up lots of other stuff. Here comes the train that goes out towards Patterson. That's a rarity. I feel like that barely ever comes by. Alright, this is already starting to become a thing. I don't want to just be the guy who promises to build a whole bunch of train stations and then builds a bunch of power lines and roads and neighborhoods. Let's not build a whole neighborhood. We're just going to stick with the station at the moment and a couple of bits and pieces. No. Just a couple of... No. Just the station. Just the station. What I'm going to do is I'm going to demolish this and we will find that station we had before because it's quite nice. And I think we definitely need to use it again. We'll do that. And I reckon we can take it a bit away from the road and drag the train line a little bit closer to it because it doesn't really need to be exactly where it was before. And I actually think that this probably needs to be updated anyway to double lines. Just because we are going to have... Yeah, we're going to have a train station there as well. So I think that we probably could justify that. But then further on, I reckon we just keep it one. Now, I don't mind this because I don't mind making my own custom bridge. And yes, there's going to be a little bit of clipping, but I can lower down a bit of that node so that we're not going to get a huge amount of people, you know. I feel like this is one of those passes where it's going to have one of those signs that says, beware, you might just knock your head on the bridge just above. But I don't mind that. I'm going to do my own custom one, but it's actually giving me a little bit of an idea. So, this train station, we did have some problems before. Oh, let's just... Yeah. We did some problems before with the crossing to get over here. Let's just add one right now, but I've got an idea for the next one we could do. We can lower that down like that. But for here, I've got a bit of an idea. What about if we did some sort of custom walkway that got people from this street up into this platform? I don't know if that's going to work. Let's just see if it is somewhat possible. First, need that land to be nice and flat. I can use this terraform network. There we go. And then what about if I got this path and dragged it like that? Ooh, this is going to be a little bit tricky, but I reckon it's going to look great if it works. And obviously that path coming through doesn't look that good, but I do have this small pedestrian sidewalk, and when I use the bridge... No, not the bridge. When I use the elevated one, it makes it have a little cover, and it hides all of that. Well, not all of it, but hides a lot of it. And you know what? In Australia, that's kind of how they look anyway. Just another idea. Just another idea. I'm going to give it a little whirl. Although, I don't know. Yeah, here it is. Uh-oh. Okay. Uh-oh. Hopefully, I can justify what I'm about to do. Alright. I don't even know if this is going to work, and we can't even test it out. Maybe we should just leave this like that and see if anybody walks up that pathway. No, I don't want to risk it. We're just going to turn that off. Let's wait and see when we start dragging out some train lines and see if people are actually going to use that. But let's detail this place up, add some shops, and then move on to the next one. I feel like that definitely needs to be done, and there's still so much more to do around here. As you can see, I mean, this whole area still needs a bit of development. I would like this to, of course, still be farmland, like beyond this point, but I think everything past down here probably still needs to be some sort of suburbs and, you know, incorporate some sort of, you know, shops and stuff like that. Although I think this is probably going to be the shops for this main area. I kind of love it. I really love what's going on down here. That looks so cool. So this has now become a bit of a place. Something that I do need to do. I'm surprised to see you going around here, and that's, yeah, let's stop that. Let's just go to our vehicle restrictions. We're going to go here and ban all trucks, ban all buses. We'll ban just all of these guys. Now that that's all taken care of, let's do just one more countryside railway station. And look, this time, no detail. Okay, it's just going to be the station. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's demolish this because I think it's going to go exactly in this place right here. I'm going to demolish one more. And we will take it away from the main road. And I will drag out another road. Maybe even somewhat... No, that's not going to make any sense. The thing is, I just don't want to shuffle too much of our farmland because... I mean, it's not like it's massively detailed, but I just kind of don't really want to change too much. We'll place him along there. And the thing that really annoys me is that this is super typical where you'd see a road right next to a train station like that, but in City Skylines, it has a really hard time connecting up and working its magic. So I'm going to try really hard to make it work, but I don't know if it's going to. So we might even need to rethink about where these roads are. Oh, do I really want to do that? There we go. I don't think it needs that much detail. Of course, we probably need some parking. We probably need some other... Yeah, okay, so it probably needs a bit in terms of detail. But I'm going to do that later. I can't... We just cannot. Okay, we got to get to the city. But yes, Mr. Cow, I hear you. But we do need to fix this up because it is just a little bit ugly. I want to show you some tricks. So you can use the node controller. It works really well on these train tracks, particularly when you've got some crazy junctions like this. Not that it's crazy, but does make things a bit messy. Look at that. That actually works out pretty well. Maybe if I bring it in just a little bit further, and then maybe the blue could stretch like... That's pretty good. And that's even better. Okay, well that's good. So that's just like a real easy trick that you can do with that. Uh-oh, we don't have a connection. Oh man. What about if we have our road so that way these guys have access, but then we start rising up. Goes over the train line and connects back to that road. I'm going to come back to this area, but I do want to finish off a couple of things before I go. First of all, I think that this road is perfect access to this highway down here. So I'm going to continue upgrading. Well, not like that. I'm going to continue upgrading with roads like that. And we will... let's just break the grid a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to make it so that people can access this road up here quite easily. But at the same time, it's not exactly going to be a big town. We don't need any sort of fancy interchange. We can do something as simple as that. I mean, oh, you know what? That's even nice. We've even got a road going along there, and you can see that at some point it was probably connected, and then as the town has seen more traffic coming through, they've disconnected it. So I think that works pretty well. That gives people enough ways of... that was strange. It gives people enough ways of getting into town. There's a few more roads I want to add, and then let's move on to the next station. So far, our stations have been on the smaller side of things and in the less busier parts of Dundee. We're now going to get to the last two stations, which I believe are going to be the busiest. In particular, this one down here, it is in the busiest area. It is going to be even busier by the time we finish with it. There is quite a lot in terms of public transport already coming to this area. You might not have realized, but there is a tram stop, at least a tram network, that we probably should connect up to our transport hub down here. We've already got the buses, and there's two lines. So whatever we do place down needs to have something in terms of a bypass so that trains can actually just bypass this station entirely. I reckon we use this one. It's got the right amount of platforms. I believe it doesn't technically have a bypass, but I think that's fine because we do have the 4 lines. I actually might just see what this looks like because I have never placed it down. So let's just put it on pause. I'm going to drag this out of the way. We will replace that down. I'm going to give us a little bit more room to play with, but I'm still deciding on the exact location of this station because We could place it here, but then the main part of the town is down there. So if you, I don't know, still trying to decide on that. But let's just see what this thing looks like first. Hopefully we can change it to, yes we can. That's good. Let's place it like that and have a little look. I do believe this is an older station, so it does have a bit of a thing going on down here. But if I try the same trick, okay, cool. So what I'm doing is I'm holding down Alt, which means that I can select the node within the building. And maybe, just maybe, I can delete that? Alright, so that did work, but I don't know if it totally worked, if you know what I mean. I have deleted that node, but I'm worried now that I might not be able to... Oops, better make sure I select the right one. I'm worried that I might not be able to connect up the station. It might not function the way it should. There is still technically 2 lines going through, so hopefully that's not going to cause any sort of issues down the road. Or down this track, I should say. Jeez, I might be sick, but I can definitely land a pun pretty smoothly. Hi, it's a future editing version of Tiller's 20. It's, I guess not future, it's still past because you are watching this, but for me it's, well, I guess it's present. Regardless, it's a week later and I'm recording this commentary over the top because all the commentary for this is pretty unusable. I'm surprised I even tried to do it in the first place. I really should have just been resting, but I was pretty keen to get into this build and finish it off. So what we are doing is I built this viaduct. I had always planned to do a viaduct here. This was like the earliest plans I had for this train line. At the moment, it is just the viaduct. I didn't do any detailing below it because I reckon there's going to be a whole episode where we work down here. There's quite a lot I want to do. There's a whole interchange for the highway, and even you can see that intersection down there. That was also one of the first things that I built. So temporary, but it's funny because it stayed there. And it is like a bit of an unusual location. I'm trying to figure out what I can place because we do have this train line and we do have like a pretty ugly looking power line as well. And it's just a bit of a strange area. So I think whatever we do end up placing is going to be sort of industrial, sort of just open space, big building types of things, maybe some warehouses. I'm not really sure. If you got some ideas, let me know. We've also got the light rail. So the light rail is not connected to the current train station, and I reckon that'll be for a future episode as well because, I mean, I think that is the perfect connection. I mean, that really goes in the other direction of the train, and it also connects up some areas that just have no public transport at the moment. Something that I am definitely going to avoid in the next series is having a train line that has catenaries because they are a little, I mean, they add some pretty interesting bits of detail, and all the train lines in, well, it's a lot of the train lines within Australian cities have these catenaries. They are a little bit frustrating because I guess in a realistic way, you want them to align up. They want to be opposite one another, and I'm sure there's a particular way that they are meant to look, but they are a bit tricky because when you are trying to make sure they are lining up pretty nicely, you need to make sure the nodes are in the right spot. And then if it is an uneven terrain, which Oceania is just all uneven, there's quite a lot of fiddling around. So this next little part, I had to do a lot of aligning up. I was placing down props where the catenary wasn't aligning up properly. It definitely adds a lot to the area, and I am glad that I put in the work for it because it definitely looks really nice with the extra details on this line. But something that I do a little later is, I go through and add in so many of these custom catenaries, and then I end up changing the line because it just wasn't really connecting up how I thought it should, which meant I had to delete all the placed ones. So it was just one of those things where you do all this detail work and then you realize, okay, I'm going to change some stuff up. I feel like that happens so often. You do all this detail work and then you look at the bigger picture and you realize, no, that's not going to work. So there's a bit of that happening. And also no controller on these lines are just perfect. On these intersections, on these connections, I don't know. I am not a train guy, by the way. I am purely a train, I enjoy them and I think they look great within the city and I think they're great public transport, but I couldn't I couldn't tell you the right names for things. You're lucky for me to say catenary. And I'm probably not even giving enough space for the trains to get through, just with these custom ones, but we'll see how they go. I'm sure it's fine, and they do look pretty nice with the doubles going over the 4 lines. It looks pretty sweet. But it was at this point that I realized that I was doing a lot of work on the lines, and I really need to do some work around the station. So I ended up building a whole commercial district here because I realized that having a station kind of just randomly placed between 2 suburbs didn't really fit very well. It needed to be around something that, was some sort of town center or had some sort of commercial or had a reason for people to stop there in the first place. Just in the middle of nowhere didn't really work. So I ended up building this little town, I guess not really a town, it's a little commercial district, and it is called Chester Hill. This is a pretty, it's definitely not the nicest. A lot of 70s architecture. We've got a Centrelink, an old Coles is down here too, a pub on the corner. That's kind of what it's looking like, and I do really like the way it turned out. Some of these buildings are from the UK, and I've been looking at them for ages on the Steam Workshop, so it's great to finally place them down. They've been on my collection for ages. And then we just got to think about where that light rail is going to connect up to the rest of the place. But that is a job for another day. Now we're starting to work on the last station for this episode, and this is going to be, look, originally I thought this was going to be Hipsterville, but it's probably too far away for Hipsterville. This station is out in quite an industrial area. There's currently no commercial, there's no real town center. It's really, and when I say town center, I mean like a suburban center of commercial. That's still not the right term, but you know what I mean. We need something of like a centerpiece, a place, a reason why this station is here in the first place. The plan is to build something here. So I'm going to put to you guys, what is that town going to look like? What is that neighborhood going to look like? Neighborhood's the right word. I don't know why I'm using other words. Neighborhood, what is it going to be like? I don't reckon this is going to be a platform that every train needs to stop at. So I have created a bypass so trains can just completely bypass this station if they need to. Of course, a lot of cargo trains are going to bypass this because this is also going to be part of the cargo line. So there's going to be quite a lot of cargo when we build the port, which is definitely coming up. But when we build the port, there's going to be quite a lot of freight coming in and out. So we definitely need some space for trains. Passenger service can stop without blocking any sort of trains that are coming to the port. But that is as much as I'm going to do for that station. We still need a name for it. We need to know what it's going to be like. So I'm going to wait for you guys to let me know, and we'll build that at another stage. And then it's just a matter of connecting everything up. We've got a whole bunch of lines. Well, actually, we've only got the 3 lines. We've got the express that goes all the way, the commuter goes all the way out to Paterson. So it only makes 3 stops. It stops at Central Station in Dundee. It stops off at our country valley town that we built. And then we have Paterson, which is way out in the outback. And then it comes all the way back. The next one will stop at every single station heading towards Namutu, and then the next one will go out to that valley country town and then come back. All this would have been so much better in a live play. I really wish that I was able to use that footage. But as you can see, I am using these Sydney trains. These are I've been wanting to use these for ages. I think probably a little bit of nostalgia for me. I've been catching these trains since I was a kid. So I think these are the ones we are definitely going to stick with. And I'm going to keep the paint job. I know we have Ride operating within Dundee, and we have custom Ride colors for all the liveries of everything else. But I think keeping the colors of these trains, for me, they're just too good. So we're gonna continue using them. And then I pretty much just kept about 3 or so trains going on each line, except for the one that goes out to Paterson. That is only, I believe, 1 train, and that's because a lot of that line is just single line, or single rail, so I couldn't actually have anything extra because we're going to get a little bit of backup, but that's all right because I kind of like how infrequent the service is out there. It kind of makes it more special when you finally do see a train. Plus, there's not a huge reason to have any more than just the one, so I'm pretty happy just leaving it like that. But for the rest of Dundee, it's looking pretty good. This is definitely fulfilled an area that was lacking a lot of public transport. Of course, there is still a lot more to improve, but we will have to save that for another episode. Thank you all so much for watching today's episode of Oceania. It was a little bit of a strange one, definitely a long one. Don't get used to the length. It's way too long for an episode for me, but I do really appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. And speaking of appreciation, I want to give a shout out to some of the newest people supporting the channel over on Patreon. Dmitry Ovchennikov, John Ritz, Gil C, Junji Ding, Rachel, and Ching Quen. Guys, thank you all so much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.